So we have gone through a different method of estimating from order of magnitude to square foot costs, assembly or system estimate, and today unit cost estimate method. And the last method we deal with estimation. And for this one, uh, before we wrap up and remind you with the practice, as you can see here, what determines an estimate accuracy? It's very important. We have done many estimates with different methods. How can we ensure the estimate are accurate? There are many factors can determine that. This is the 5 factors that I just list here so that you can see and keep that in mind to apply that in your project number 1, which is do the estimate and bidding. First, we need to have a good scope definition. What is the project asking to do? What is the scope of work? What is the boundary of the project? All of that, and then it realize that in be able to read the drawings, and that is the scope definition. If we don't have a good scope, then of course it tend to be under or overestimate the project. And then we have to have adequate preparation time. That is very important, because if you do the last minute, then potentially errors, rush, that will not ensure the estimate is accurate. So for the project 1 that we introduce in the next lesson, please take time to prepare for the project. Don't do in the last minute, and have to have a good reliable cost information. If we use outdated, not relevant, or not applied to the company work that you deal with, then the cost may not be as reliable for that specific company that do that work. So reliable cost information is important to determine the accuracy of the project. And then the estimator skills. If we are careless, if we don't have knowledge of reading the drawings, knowledge to retrieve information, get information to get the unit cost, then the estimate will not be accurate. So it have to be due diligence, detail oriented sometime for this time of work to ensure the accuracy of the estimate. And then the methodology employed. We use 4 different methodology, order of magnitude, that tend to be lower accuracy to the unit cost, which is today's lesson. It's more detail, more effort, but will be more accurate. And it requires the well-defined the project definition. So that those are the factors that can determine the estimate accuracy. Some are in your control when you do the estimate, and keep that in mind when you do. And then before I wrap up this lesson, we have 3 additional practice problem, and one here very important. We apply the similar process we do in problem 3 that you have a video practice for. This problem is a little bit more complicated with detail, the rebar, and you'll be able to read that. And because that a little bit more complicated with reading, but if you want to, you can walk through and overcome this, you can be able to read the basics drawing in there, and then we move on to the next lesson, read a more practical real project later. But this is only one item that you see the foot in there, and given that I put it very detailed solution on the first 2, of course, and then that problem itself I explained very clearly how to determine the volume for concrete, for the formwork, for the rebar, for each item, explained very detailed. So I suggest you to walk through to see where that number come from, and then when you have that quantity, in here, and I show you in the worksheet 5 practice problem solution, and it on your own, you try by yourself, understand this. It's very important for the work, for the exam, for the quiz, and of course for your understanding. That is the utmost important. And when you have quantity, then we use the estimate detail, the blank sheet that I provide on Canvas. You can fill out something we did in problem 3 with the video, and you can see. and put out on the 14 and columns, the quantity we determine above, and then go to the reference, division 3 reference, which is the worksheet 5 reference on Canvas, to go over and fill out the item that have it in there, so that you can determine the total cost for this project. So keep that in mind. Please practice, and that only practice can help you understand, reinforce the material regardless of how much you watch the videos.